your lab, and we're just going to show you what you do and how you run it. And we're here for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask Emma or me. We're both with the technical services department here, and we are available on this call, and we are also available if you call our 1-800 number, 1-800-338-4381, or email techservice@vicam.com, and we will be glad to answer any questions you have on it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to test a sample. Emma has an animal feed sample here. I'm just going to spotlight this so that you can see it a little bit bigger. Emma has an animal feed sample and 80% methanol. This can be, the beauty of this method, it can work with all types of animal feeds. So we actually have a document with performance data on everything from pig feeds to chicken feed, horse feed, even goat feed. So it works with all different types of animal feed. If the feeds come in a pellet, you do have to grind them. You can see they have it ground, so about 90% of it passes through a 20 mesh sieve. So pelleted feed does need to be ground. So you take 5 grams of sample and add 30 mils of 80% methanol solution. And then after you recap it, just shake it a little bit just so that any dry sample that's in the bottom of the tube gets into solution. So just kind of shake it a few times to get in solution. Then put it onto the bird tube prep mixer. And when you hook it on there, it will automatically start mixing, blending, and you let it blend for 90 seconds.
Nancy, do you want to share at all about the range of sample types that we've looked at so far with Afla-V ONE?
Would you like me to talk about that, or would you like to talk about that?
Well, no, I don't, it's up to you. I just wanted to kind of share that it's, we've tested so many different sample types from, I believe, goat feed, poultry feed, cattle feed, pet food, finished kibble. Different types of pet foods have been analyzed. And as Nancy mentioned, we do have a package of data. We've got more of the surface data, like for accuracy, precision, linearity, things like that, but there's more in-depth validation work, and we have that data available as well. So just depending on what your needs are, we can provide that for you.
Thank you, Patricia. So you can see the sample has been blended, and then you just let it sit. So if you let it sit, the solids will go down to the bottom of the tube, and then the top part of the liquid on the top part of the tube will be more clear. And if you let it sit just for a few minutes, the solids will all settle down, and you just want to use the material on the top part of the tube. So we have an Afla-V diluent. So you measure 200 microliters of the diluent into a strip test vial. And we have 2 ranges for this method. One range is has a limit of detection of 2 and goes up to 80 ppb, and the other has a limit of detection of 5 and goes up to 300 ppb. So the one we're demonstrating right now is the 2 to 80. So if you do want to use, you want to measure goes up to 300, because a lot of people for the animal feeds will want to go up to 300, then it's just an added dilution step. So she's taking 100 microliters of the solution on the top of the sample and adding it to 200 microliters of dilution solution of the dilution solution. We have a 100 microliter fixed pipette that comes with the kit, so we just use 2 squirts of that. 2 squirts of 100 microliters, 200 microliters of the diluting solution, 100 microliters of the sample, and then you can just shake it to mix it. And then you want to make sure you don't open the strip test file until you're ready to run the test. So now your sample's all ready to go. I'm just going to open that strip test file. So that's the Afla-V strip. And then she's going to put 100 microliters of the extract, the diluted extract, onto the Afla-V strip. Then she's starting a timer. Test starts for timing for 5 minutes. Now while she's doing that, she's going to calibrate the reader. The reader is calibrated with a barcode. Once you calibrate it, it remains calibrated, but she's just going to show you now how to calibrate it so you can see as part of this demo. So to calibrate a test, you just hit new method. And then you open the drawer, and then there's one of these barcodes that come with each kit. So there's 2 barcodes with the Afla-V ONE kit. One's called method E, and that's the 2 to 80 ppb range. And then we have another barcode, barcode F, that's for the 5 to 300 ppb range. So you put it in the drawer, and then you just press read barcode, and it will scan the calibration. So this calibration is on that barcode. So again, once that calibration is scanned in there, it remains in the instrument. But sometimes you need to put it in the other direction. You put it in the other direction so that it's already in there. And then when it's scanned, you select the barcode and then press in the name of the sample. Press continue, and then you're ready to put in the sample. Does anybody have any questions so far? So just while we're waiting, we're just going to show you how the instrument, we have another 2 minutes for the test to run. So I'll show you, if you just arrow back, there's on the main menu there's something that's called results. So if you hit the results tab, you'll see all the results that you have run. So all the results, the calibrations and all the results are stored in the instrument. And the advantage of that is that you can, well, one, you can go back and look at all the results you've run. The other advantage too is that you can download this data onto a USB drive. So if you flip them around, you can see the USB drive on the back of the instrument. So on the back of the instrument, there's a place for a USB. So you can just stick a USB in there, and then you can download all the data that's in the instrument, and you can put it all into an Excel folder, Excel file. You can also print it again. If you want to print the data again, you can print the data out. And also we have software called Virtu Connect. So if you have an internal computer network within your company, with this Virtu Connect software, if you have readers at multiple locations, it will feed the data from your multiple satellite locations into a central computer on an internal company network. So that's another possibility as well. The instrument also has security features so that you can have, we just use the generic code, which is 000, but you can give different people different passcodes so that only certain people in your organization have access to be able to delete data or download or print data or do different things. Is this available for other toxins like fumonisin, Don, and zearalenone. Yes, but the methods that we have for fumonisin, Don, and zearalenone, they're for corn. They're not for finished feeds yet. We are developing a method now for deoxynivalenol and finished feeds, but right now the Don method is just for corn and wheat. We do have one with a water extraction with Don that's good for corn and wheat and malted barley and sorghum. So that's good for all incoming materials. Incoming feed materials that you would use. So if you're a feed manufacturer, you could screen your incoming materials before you make them into your animal feed. Any other questions? So we got 5 seconds left.
Would it help to do centrifugation to clarify the liquid before doing the testing, or does it make a difference?
We have other methods that we use a filter to filter it, but for this method we developed it, we just let it sit because it's easier, less steps and easier.
All right, that's good.
Yeah. So you can see what Emma did is she just took the strip when 5 minutes is up, she put it into the reader, closed the door and press start measurement, and then you get a reader result on the display. Not only do you get a result on the display, it will give you the method that you used, it will give you the lot number of strips that you used, it will give you the time and the date that you ran it, and it will also give you the name of the person who ran it. If you can put in different codes for different people. Right now it just says admin, that's the name, that's the generic name if you don't have specific operators using it. But if you have specific operators with specific codes, it will also tell you the operator who ran the test kit. Then if you want to print it, you press the print button and it will go to a printer. And then if you want to run the next test, you just hit same barcode. If you want to run a different test, you press change barcode. So we do have, to answer your question, Reva, we do have what we call our Myco 6-in-1, 5-in-1 plus, which is 6 mycotoxins that you can test. So if you're testing for corn, this is not for the finished feeds, but for the corn, you could take that one extract and put it on 6 different strips, and then you could test it for all 6 mycotoxins in less than 10 minutes. So you put it on one strip, and then you change the calibration in the instrument, and then you could read it on ochratoxin, change it, read it on Don, or if you just want Don, Fumo, Xarella, you can just run Don, Fumo, and Xarella on your sample with the same one extract, and put in that same extract on 5 different strips, the different mycotoxins. So you can see it's pretty quick. This webinar started at 2 o'clock, and we talked a little bit at the beginning. It's 2:18, and we've run the sample. So you can see you can run the sample very quickly. And we've been talking and answering questions at the same time. Does anyone have any questions about the method?
It's great.
It is great. I must admit, it is great. And if you're testing, again, incoming ingredients, we have test kits to test for multiple mycotoxins and incoming ingredients as well. Incoming feed ingredients.
How much was the sample again?
0. How much toxin was in the sample?
No, I mean the amount of animal feed that you took for this test.
5 grams.
5 grams. Wow.
5 grams of sample, and then 30 mils of 80% methanol.
Okay. Do you have that unit available? I think Carleton told me that you have international voltage like 220 or 210 if I needed to take a unit to overseas or something.
Yes.
Right.
The same unit is good for 110, 220 volts. It's like the computers. You can use both 110, 220 volts.
All right. Do you know commercially if is it easier to have it delivered to where I'm going to be going, or to just carry it with me?
We do, yeah, we have international distributors. So if you're buying them for like Egypt, we have a fabulous distributor in Egypt. So you could purchase them through our distributor, or I know some people that are in the universities. People are buying them in the universities, and then they're carrying them over to where they're working themselves.
All right.
I'm not sure what has to be done with that, because I think they may ask you some questions in customs if you're carrying the equipment through customs.
Yes. Yeah, it's getting very complicated with universities that import, export, and stuff like that. You have to have a lot of documentation. That's why I was asking if it is available overseas, and I'm glad that they have it in Egypt. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we do have international distributors, so it may be easier to just purchase it through the international distributors rather than trying to get all your paperwork in order to carry it over yourself.
Definitely, yes. Yes, except that I bought one. That is actually, it'd be easier if I can take it instead of buying another one there.
Right.
The resources, yes. Okay.
Right. We have some others. How much would each strip cost? We actually have our sales managers on the call here. I think Lanny is on the call. That is a question for if Lanny's on there, that would be a question for Lanny. Yeah, Lanny is on the phone. So that's a question for Lanny. How much would each strip cost?
Lanny, I know he's on the call, but I don't know if he can jump in. I know he's in meetings. So Lanny, if you can't pop in, I may address a bit of that question. But jump in anytime, Lanny. So I'm Patricia Jackson. I'm the Market Development Manager, and I work with Lanny and his team on pricing. And one thing that just came up a few minutes ago, and it's so true, that whenever you go internationally with these products or any products, you're going to run into some pricing differences. And that is typically because of the overhead involved with bringing product into a country, the shipping costs, things like that. So if you deal with one of our distributors, you will see some of that, but that's because all of those extra costs need to be added in. But if you're purchasing in the US, typically for this particular product, you're going to receive a kit that contains all of the items needed to run the test outside of the equipment and the methanol. And it will be between $6 and $6.50 per test, depending on your volume. And I know that our salespeople try to make it very attractive, especially when people are working with the university. When you're doing higher volume testing, I know that they can work with you on pricing as well. So that's just a general overview. Do you have any specific questions about price, or did you need any additional detail, Retha or anyone else?
The $66 per test is including the cost of the equipment, or just based
no.
on the, yeah.
Sorry, it's $6 per test, a little bit more than $6 if you're looking at list price.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and it does not include the setup package. So that would be, if you don't already have the Virtu Touch system, that would be an additional cost. And I don't have that price right in front of me, but we can get that for you, no problem. It's generally in about the $4,200 range for all of the equipment you see there that Nancy and Emma were using just now. So it's
So what other kind of samples can you do following the same procedure without adding any other decolorization or purification or anything like that?
We can run the corn and wheat on the other test kits. And we don't have any other steps in it. We don't have any, we just have some with the dilution, but a lot of our methods, we just extract the sample and put it onto the strip. So we don't have any pre-cleanups or any decolorization in any of the steps of our test kit because we want them to be fast.
And for corn, we have several different mycotoxins. And for wheat, I know we have a couple different commodities that can be tested.
I thought I would throw in here too, because the Virtu Touch reader, this is our new reader. Our first generation Virtu lateral flow reader came out in 2010. And we can do everything from peanuts to tree nuts, and all different types of commodities there, including dried distillers grains, which is also important for the animal feed industry. So what you're going to see over the coming months and next few years is all of those sample types being moved onto the Virtu Touch reader. So there is a wider range of samples. It's just a matter of time to get them all validated and those methods moved over to the new reader.
All right. Well, this is really great for corn, but I have done some study on herbs and dried foods and stuff like that, and I think I can communicate with you at one point about what data do you have if I want to be able to compare with what I samples, spices and other dried foods that I wanted to look at.
Yeah, the spices and the herbs, they're difficult samples to work with. So we don't have methods with these lateral flow strips yet with the spices. However, we do have an immunoaffinity column method with the fluorometer for spices, and we just released a new aflatoxin column, Aflatest WBSR Plus, as a cleanup for HPLC that gives excellent recovery of spices, roasted coffee, cocoa, excellent chromatography, excellent cleanup, really high recoveries. The data looks really great. But that is an immunoaffinity cleanup with an HPLC, which I know at the beginning of the meeting you mentioned that you are interested in that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I think that's what I would recommend for your herbs and spices is an immunoaffinity column cleanup with the instrument.
Yes. It's wonderful. Yes, we did a lot of work doing all kind of things, extraction and stuff, and liquid extraction, solid phase extraction. I even did supercritical fluids. I know it takes a lot of, because we had to look for a small amount of samples in the dust, but I think this with this fiction limits, I think is wonderful. Saves a lot of time.
Yeah. Of course, with the instruments, you can get very, very low limits of detection. Again, if you do the immunoaffinity cleanup with the instruments, you get very low limits of detection.
Okay,
we got a comment here from Raphael. He is our distributor for Latin America. So if any of you are in Latin America and you're interested in supplies internationally in the Latin American, Caribbean and Latin American region, we have a distributor, Raphael at Vet Brands, and he will be able to help you get those supplies into those countries. So thank you, Raphael. Anybody else have any comments or questions? What is the limit of
I think I just wanted again the HPLC, what kind of detectors used with the columns that you have?
Fluorescence detector. That's really important. But aflatoxins, you need a fluorescence detector. Afla-Oak fluorescence detector. Dawn and T2, an absorbance detector, UV detector. And fumonisin as well, we use a fluorescence detector and we do a derivatization.
All right.
Nancy, you probably saw Reva's question about
yeah, okay. What is the limit of detection for fumonisin and Dawn? The limit of detection for fumonisin in corn is 0.2 ppm, that's parts per million, and the limit of detection for Dawn, I believe, also is 0.2 parts per million ppm. Will this differentiate aflatoxin B1, B2, G1, and G2? No. But the antibody, the aflatoxin antibody on these test strips cross-reacts with B1, B2, G1, G2. So what you're getting as a reading on these test strips and with this reader is a total aflatoxin reading. So it's a total reading of all aflatoxin B1, B2, G1, G2 combined. If you do want to quantitate individual aflatoxins, that's where, again, we would recommend our Immunoaffinity column cleanup with HPLC, because then on HPLC, you'll see very clearly 4 different peaks for each of the individual aflatoxins, and they can easily be quantitated. Is this applicable for F1, FB2, and FB3? Same thing with F1, fumonisin B1, B2, B3. The fumonisin reading on this will give a total reading of B1, B2, and B3 combined. If you want to know the individual fumonisins, the Immunoaffinity column cleanup with HPLC will give you separate peaks for each of the separate 3 fumonisins. You can quantitate them separately.
Do you need cleanup if you use mass spec for detection in the HPLC?
If you're using the mass spec for detector, it depends on what limits of detection you need and what types of samples that you are working with. If you are working with complex samples, it really helps to have the Immunoaffinity column cleanup. If you're talking with the herbs and spices, it really helps because it will reduce your background material. The big advantage of the Immunoaffinity column cleanup is that it concentrates the sample. Yeah. It concentrates the toxin. So if you have instruments that don't have a particularly low limit of detection, one of the lower end mass specs, you'll concentrate the toxin on the Immunoaffinity column, so you'll be able to get a stronger signal at the lower levels.
So it is one Immunoaffinity cleanup for all the toxins?
We have a column, we have separate, same as the strip test, we have separate Immunoaffinity columns for each of the individual toxins, but we also have combination Immunoaffinity columns. So we have an Afla-Ochra Immunoaffinity column, and then we have what we call a Myco 6-in-1 Plus, which has antibodies to aflatoxins, ochratoxin, fumonisins, DON, NIV, T2, HT2, ochratoxin. And we actually have a method. We had a woman here from China who was testing medicinal herbs, and she had used that column to test for multiple mycotoxins in a Chinese herb. And we can give you that, her data, and I think she presented a poster at one of the AOAC meetings. We have that data as well.
That's great. And how much does it cost, Immunoaffinity column per sample?
And that's going to vary depending on which Immunoaffinity column that you're purchasing. So maybe Patricia can handle that, or Lanny can answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Patricia here. I'm happy to jump in. Usually you're going to see the pricing be maybe just slightly higher than you see with the strip test. So maybe between $6 and $8 per column here in the US. And as you add toxins to that, the price will increase. It's not going to be the same as if you purchase them all separately, the single toxin columns, but you will see an incremental increase based on the number of toxins included in the column. And I'd be happy to share those with you. There's just so many different columns to talk about that you'd probably want to see a little breakdown on that and see what those capabilities are. Even within, for example, the aflatoxin Immunoaffinity column category, we have several options. So Nancy mentioned performance, and let's say if you want to test medicinal herbs, there are some that are so difficult to work with, and we just launched a column last year called AflaTest WBSR Plus. It was specifically designed to meet the need for those high complexity samples, because we know that people like to use methanol or acetonitrile for extraction, and this particular column can actually hold up underneath being exposed to those solvents and still bind the toxin in spite of its presence. So we have so many categories of columns, and so you're going to see the price usually attached to the performance capabilities of the column.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the experience I have doing this since 1980, this is really great a great jump into the technology and the ease of testing and saving of time and all this stuff. I can't wait to try it, really. I have been using HPLC mass spec all the time, and we did do solid phase extraction, but this I can see how it can save a lot of time, and also you don't have to have a specially trained chemist to do that as much as, I mean, like undergraduate students can have projects on something like that. So it's wonderful.
Mustafa, do you mind if I ask you a quick question in terms of implementation? What would be a scenario where you would use a test like this one, the Afla-V ONE, in your work compared with LC mass spec? Would you use it for screening and then use your mass spec for confirmatory testing, or is there a different scenario that you might use it?
Yes, I will use it for screening because I will be processing samples in a way that to find out how much in the dust versus the corn, and I will do application of detoxification solution, so it would save a lot of cost and time using this test instead of extracting every sample. So so this would actually be a second test for me once I have, since I have mass spec. Yeah.
Okay.
But the other thing I like, since we have validation data, I can use this test as my primary test and refer in combination with your primary data, confirmation data, or validation data. Like if you have on the same kit, you have validation data, I can use it to compare with my my kit for things that, because this is going to be a research and trend of what I'm looking for, but it's not like going to be a food sample that I'm going to have my own validation on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate it very much and congratulate you and Waters for actually this effort in making these kits. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming today and all of this helpful information.
Thank you all for attending and for your time here and attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. What I would like if you can actually send us, assuming that all people attending would appreciate that, links for the resources, that the data that you have that on things other different samples. Like, do you have a database for some work that has been done by customers, or data work that you have that you wanted to share? So just allowing access to it to see what has been done.
I think, Mustafa, we have a performance data document that we created just for this product. What we'll do is send that out to everyone who's in attendance right now. And if anyone here did not provide your email address, you probably did during registration, so I will grab all of those and send you a PDF of that document. And that's kind of the introductory validation data. And then you can reach out I'll put Nancy and Emma's email addresses in that same email, so you can reach out to them individually with specific technical questions also, if that works okay.
Yes, certainly. And I would appreciate in particular the HPLC data for the columns and things that I need to order, because I had a lot of this probably I have it, but the last period, last couple of months, there has been some exposure to Corona and stuff like that I didn't have a chance to look at what Carleton sent me. So, but if you have it available and make it available would be great. So I make sure that I have all the information I need.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Any more questions from anyone or comments, suggestions? I know we went over a little bit from our 30 minutes, but thanks for hanging in there. Yes, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Bertil. Oh, I might have just been hearing myself feeding back. Okay, I'm going to let everyone go. Unless anyone would like to ask or comment any additional thing, please feel free to unmute and speak up. Otherwise, we hope to see you again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.